Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is the Pink Plus podcast, and I'm your host, Savannah Burns. My guest today is Sharon Rolfe, who is a retirement coach and behavioral scientist. We sat down to discuss finding your purpose after retirement. Even though I'm still a little ways from retiring, I feel like this is an episode that anyone can take something away from and apply it to their own lives. I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get to it. Please welcome Sharon.
Hi, this is Sharon Rolfe, and I am the Queen of Courage. I live in Seattle, Washington area, and I am a behavioral scientist. Very unusual combination, but that makes me priceless. I'm 74, never married, and never had kids, so all the more unique. So I hope you listen real close today.
I am so excited to be doing this episode with you. I've been looking forward to it, especially since we talked yesterday. I went downstairs and was telling my husband how easy it was to talk to you and how I don't have like the usual nerves with you like I do with people. You just feel very familiar to me. So I'm so excited to get to sit down with you. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you end up in Seattle?
Well, I was actually born in Washington, so I'm a Washingtonian. But I was born in the San Juan Islands, and at 8.5, my dad got a farm in eastern Washington through the GI Bill from having been in World War II. And we learned how to stack hay and milk cows and gather eggs. And the farm is a great place to learn qualities of life about respect and telling the truth and all that stuff. So it was hard work, but quality life there. We had the chickens and the cows and the pigs and so forth. So the thing that made me kind of different about my family is that I'm in the middle of five. My mom was the middle of five. My dad was the middle of five. But I was the only one that was a lifelong learner, and I always liked to learn. And that made me different from my brothers and sisters. In fact, I like the little term that's somebody says, well, you're outstanding in your field. Yeah, out, standing in your field. That was me.
So, how long have you been retired? Because that's kind of what the primary focus of our episode is today, is life after retirement. How long have you been retired?
I retired at 69 and a half, I guess. 2016, April of 2016.
Okay. What do you wish you would have known before you retired?
Well, that would kind of, the thing I learned, I had done a convention, and my leader said, Sharon, you need to make sure that you have something else beyond the current event. And so I used that logic or that advice to plan something to be engaged in after retirement. So the week before I retired, I actually started coaching school. So that was my jump into the new life. And the thing that I think it was within 4 to 6 months, I learned it was separate from the coaching school, but I listened to this webinar on mental strength out of the UK. And they said, well, when you need extra confidence or courage or, something to beef up your spirit when you're facing tough things, then it recalled to mind a warm memory. And I had a typical story I used for when I was in third grade and taught myself how to be a good um, reader in the Christmas program and got a nice compliment on it. But I thought, well, why just have one more memory? Why not see if how many I could make in a list? And I had a big aha. My list was made up of half of it was in front of people. Had I been in the wrong career? So that if I had known that earlier in my career, what a different story it would be. But I don't have regrets because I am where I am today, and I'm happy about it.
Good. What resources do you recommend for preparing for retirement?
Well, okay, so I've actually helped give some retirement no, yeah, retirement planning people that are focusing only on money, that there's these other elements of retirement. There's a purpose. You need a new purpose. You need to sometimes your planning of revolves around family, and if family moves you need to move, and your health that can change. So there's very a variety of things that add up that are kind of moving perhaps, and that they're starting to call this holistic retirement planning because money is only maybe 25-30% of what should be planning for.
So, in our pre interview, you talked about writing your essence statement when you initially got into coaching. And I think this is an exercise that kind of applies to anyone who's undergone a major life event like retirement. Can you walk us through how to write your statement and the purpose it serves?
Well, I that's my signature system. So it's kind of involved, and yet finding your purpose what is one of those things on the way to finding your essence. But um, the purpose it serves is that you use your deep wisdom about yourself, the things you love, the things that, the qualities that kind of came with the. Last night I was thinking about OEM. That was a term that we often used at Boeing or car car dealers, especially when you're replacing parts on a car. Is it the original piece of equipment or is it a add-on? Well, we came with OEM, original equipment from the manufacturer, and understanding what is inside of us in our spirit and soul is something very unique. And I think when you know that, you come away with a unshakable confidence. In fact, today, Savannah, I'd like to challenge people if you know someone who you see a huge amount of potential in and they just don't get a clue, they need to talk to me. Maybe they are they love their job, but they don't fit in. They rub people the wrong way or something. Well, I think I can help with that, and I want to step up to the plate and say, let me have a strategic call with you to talk about what could a essence statement do for you, because I anticipate the day coming when this is a common thing that we do. But right now you just kind of, oh, you're just confused. You're feel maybe a little bit useless or invisible. One of my clients said she hated being retired because her daughter would talk as if she was invisible. Mom was invisible. And just because you don't have a job, you're invisible? Well, nobody tells us in retirement that we're the boss now. If you get outside the door, you have to have a reason for getting up and out. Um, so the planning involves you no longer have a title or a task or a team to work with. You need to replace all of those in your life going forward. And that's a big hole in what your days used to look like. Now, granted, you can sleep in, and I'd do that for 3-4 months maybe. But is there a way you could turn your hobby into something full time and meaningful? I often use the term uh, a place to fit in, to matter, and to make a difference. That's kind of those all three things that take the place of your task, team, and title.
So, a little bit ago, you mentioned this term holistic retirement planning that you believe that culture is starting to desire. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, the purpose, health, money, and family is kind of the bigger picture of how retirement is. Um, Too often we've heard, I think Savannah and I have both heard of people that said, I'm afraid to retire because you're dead in 3 years. Yeah, laying on the couch for 3 years, that might take how long it takes to die. That people um, without a reason to get up in the morning, they tend to get bored and useless and depressed. And one day I was coming out here. I have a couple plants that I just have a hard time keeping alive. And I thought, if they're not growing, they're dying. Hello, that applies to us too. So find something that grabs your attention, and hobbies are often a way to do that. But I have some podcasts that I've done with one of the guys that used to work for AARP in our state, and he had 9 benefits that come from volunteering. That's a great place. Oh, in fact, I was going to make sure I mentioned today the easiest way to transition into retirement is do what you do for charity. If you flew an airplane, then who needs an airplane flown, to take people or products someplace? Find a need that probably is for a foundation or a charity that needs that same service, but are not in the position to paying for it. And if you're a bean counter, who needs beans counted? Find a place that I want someday, Savannah, to see billboards that say, "Boomers, what are you doing to come alongside your favorite charity?" Or actually, foundations that say, "Boomers, we need you to help us do what we're doing already in the community." So I've heard a couple professional golfers that they have a charity on the side that they are pouring um, their some of their income into helping other people. Maybe young people is often recipients of charity that help grow them up.
So I think it's kind of funny that you mentioned if you fly a plane, find something that kind of corresponds to that niche, because you actually worked for Boeing before retirement. And before that, you worked for GTE, which you said then turned into Frontier down the line. So how did you jump to a job in production after working primarily in data processing?
Well, that was a long story, but GTE had transferred me down to Tampa, Florida to work with the technical people down there, and kind of more on the testing side of making sure that payroll and material management and all that was lined up. In fact, I remember um, Y2K coming along, and I had a, a somebody in my team that was really concerned about Y2K, and like 15 years before it happened, and we got ready. It was a big job, and people say, "Oh, yeah, it didn't turn out to be anything." Well, because a lot of people had to put a lot of time into it. But I left GTE when they gave me an incentive to leave because I felt like I had more skill than what they were paying me to do. And so I actually started up another ladder, at the bottom of the ladder, and I did do temp agency work. I did deliver mail for 3 years in Dallas, Texas, and that was quite a journey to go from GTE to another meaningful job. But I didn't want to have that regret, at the end of life and say, I wonder what would happen if I had left a steady job. Well, I took that leap. It may have not been the best, but in my Queen of Courage, I'm doing kind of a series on, and yesterday it was having leaving no regrets. And the solution to that is to take more risk. Well, I took risk, and I live to tell about it.
I think taking risks is kind of scary for people. Do you have some sort of advice on when you get to that point where you want something so badly, but you're a little intimidated by the risk? How do you then get yourself to get to that next step?
Well, in fact, I'm working on a ebook, kind of a small handout, free thing that is all about courage. There's so many things that be careful, be safe. Well, being safe is good to a degree, but when it closes you down and makes you fearful, um, you're losing out on life because you're closed instead of open. And there's always, if we look at our parents or grandparents and say, they didn't know everything they needed to know, but they stepped out and took a leap of faith. And it's surprising how often that leap of faith pays off. Some of our favorite movies are all about taking a leap of faith or standing up with a backbone, and when somebody's, forcing us to give up, like taking our land away from us or something. I'm thinking of Braveheart. I need to watch that movie again. But there's a valor in taking risk that you strongly believe in.
Yeah, everybody wants to kind of root for the guy that has courage. That's like the hero usually. So you have a couple podcasts called Fresh Courage into Retirement and Maximize Retirement. So how did you get into podcasting?
Well, that kind of came as a result of the next step beyond that aha that I had about maybe I was supposed to be in front of people. I decided that I think at the time I was also reading a book called Influence, and it was a woman writing to women, and that what a difference our world would be if women were involved in more decisions. So she was encouraging women to speak up, contribute to, even the way things are designed. From kitchen utensils to hair dryers to you name it. Um, Sometimes you can tell a man designed it because it's so awkward or difficult. Vacuum cleaners is a good one.
I feel like high heels has got to be on there because they don't
Girdles.
yes, Spanx. They don't understand how uncomfortable it is to wear this stuff. They need to strap it on and then innovate, find something else.
Yeah, so I started acting as if, well, the other thing I want to mention, Savannah, is I've always been kind of curious when people have profiles and they say, well, here, take this profile. Well, I've done that a lot. So learning about myself and how, um, kind of what makes me tick, I think is a good investment of time and money. And I did one called MCore, Motivational Core. And that was besides this list of being in front of people that showed that maybe I could influence, that my MCore also had a high influence behavior was like the second highest on there. So I thought maybe it's time to take some baby steps and act as if that was a truth that I hadn't tested yet. And it gave me that backbone to take some steps forward.
Did you find that you really like podcasting?
Well, I I found talking to people like you're doing very interesting, and the I learned a lot. My first guest was a lady that did community service projects around the world, and wow, what a great story that she gave. And her book is called Smiling at the World, Community Service Projects Around the World. But um, the fact that you're learning from everybody just can't be beat. And I'm a lifelong learner. So, I'm big about, if you can't tell yet, I'm big about curiosity and possibilities. And so I use those two things to great length in my guest interviews. Yeah.
Your online bio says that you are a behavioral scientist transitioned to a retirement essence coach. How did you find out that that was your passion?
Um, well, in coaching school, they kind of often suggest that the people that are our niche that we can speak best to is people like us that have been through tough times, challenging times, testing, getting through difficult situations. And, like I had been out standing in a field, and I so I was making my figuring my niche was professional retired women who still wanted to be engaged in life. I've always okay. More directly, an answer to that question, though, Savannah, is that I, as a teenager, was intrigued with potential. You know, as a teenager, what's my potential? It's like a mystery to kind of reach and grab hold of. And so, as a retirement coach, I'm still looking for the potential in people that how can I help them see their potential and then support them and bring them along to embrace that potential and gain that meaning, satisfaction for themselves.
So, I want to talk a little bit about your book called Fresh Courage in Retirement: Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. Can you tell me a bit about what readers can expect to learn in your book?
Well, I have 7 chapters in there that help you take baby steps towards finding your own purpose. Um, there's a lot of people that have books on purpose, and everyone has a different voice. But I use some of the stories from my podcast. I start out with that story about the lady that did traveling around the world for a year, and I also create postcard size fabric art blocks. So they're scattered throughout my book because, beauty gets processed in our brain differently than just words. Sometimes a pretty poster will grab our heart, where if you see the same words on a billboard, it's just words, but when it's combined with color and images, it goes into our spirit. And I use that with my art blocks throughout the book as well. So um, let's see. The book has every chapter has action items where you start reflecting on your own self. I last week I read in a book that reflection is often connected with wisdom. Wouldn't you like to have more wisdom about yourself? So, reflection, I don't think, is something we do very well in our culture, and those that do are ahead of the game by far. So, purpose is that meaning of what gets you out of the bed in the morning, you know? And essence is the thing that gives you confidence. I'm starting to use this term unshakable confidence because you know yourself better and can actually tell somebody who you are on the inside. And then the result of both of those is fulfillment and satisfaction and contentment and living a long life, longevity.
What are some things that you think people don't factor into retirement ahead of time?
Well, this whole walking away from the reason you got out of bed in the morning, the people often reflect back to us our value or our personality or um, how nice or sweet we are or something. There people are a mirror to us to kind of know ourselves. So when there's nobody mirroring you except your mirror, um, there's a real big void. It's like you start don't knowing yourself anymore because you're not doing that task that everybody loved you to do. You're not taking care of people. And well, the other thing, Savannah, we work, we're human doings in our jobs. It's time to be a human being in retirement. Nobody explains that. It's time to live from your heart. And it's I think one of my biggest jobs as a retirement coach is helping you find your joy, your happiness, because happiness, what are you talking about? It's a big deal.
I feel like a lot of people look forward to retirement mainly. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it's so that I can sleep in.
Exactly.
Do you feel like there's also a level of intimidation or hesitation, or if it is it scary to think about retirement?
I looked at it as an opportunity. Um, and yet, I also, knowing that I didn't have grandkids or kids around, my retirement was going to be very different because oftentimes it's your grandkids that give you a new purpose to get out of bed. And so I was very much aware that the challenge was going to be very different for me. So those of you that are single in retirement, and oftentimes you become single through death, widowhood, divorce, maybe your kids are on the other side of the country, so you have to do some extra good planning to make up for those friends and family that aren't close by you. But um, uh, ask me the question again. It seems like I have another answer to that too.
Do you feel like people find that retirement is scary or intimidating?
Well, scary in the fact that the rumor was you die within 3 years. It's scary sometimes because most of the people say, "Oh, do I have enough money? Do I have enough money?" and you stop saving money and start spending money in retirement. But other than that, well, there is a certain amount of scariness about your health. How long are you going to, so you need to be responsible for keeping yourself active. I make a real point to daily walk about a mile. It's really cold here today. I saw snow this morning, in fact, and the wind is blowing, so it feels extra cold. But I need to be determined that my health is more important than freezing outside.
I want to circle back to what you said, talking about how a lot of people find having grandchildren is like their new purpose after retirement. So in your case, you don't have grandchildren, or people who, like you said, their grandchildren live across the state or whatever. What are some ways retirees can work on finding their purpose after this like major life event where their whole calendars are free, basically?
Oh, yeah, because now you have to put the things on your calendar. Well, my book is a great tool for that. I also have some resources on my website, Courage, uh, queenofcourage.now.site. I have a resource list. So I started out creating what do I want to do in retirement workshops in the senior centers here, and I put it together a list of books and websites and movies. The Intern was a great movie about transitioning in retirement. Another one was about Schmidt, but there is so many opportunities. If so, like I know of a couple of different women's RV camping groups that they have taken these old RVs and retroed them into Elvis themes or cowboy themes or who knows, but they engage their creativity. And then they go out on certain weekends and put together groups that sit around the campfire and share stories. Um, so Google is such a tool for, if you like, let's say, um, styling hair and you like pink poodle skirts and you like square dancing, put those all together in a Google search with maybe events um, as 4 words there, and it's amazing what you come up with. That's how the lady that did the Smiling at the World, she Googled. It took her like 2 years to plan this 1 year around the world. So use Google to combine things that you don't think belong together, and you'll surprise yourself.
I do love Google. And in addition to, like you said, putting the little keywords in there to find different events and stuff, I think Facebook also has a lot of
Groups.
groups. Like, I don't want to say eccentric, but you'd be surprised at the different people and their interests in things where they're getting together and creating like social events and things for just off the wall stuff.
Yeah, yeah. My niece, she's quite the sewer for Renaissance outfits and goes once a year to have a booth at a Renaissance fair. And she has leather goods and she has belts and garments. I don't know what they call them, but she's highly into that. And she makes her living on it too.
So let's see. There was a couple things I made sure to note that I wanted to bring up. First one being your website. I took a look at your website yesterday, and just like you said, having just words on a page with no sort of like aesthetically pleasing background or anything, you just kind of read it and you're like, yeah, whatever. But your website was really fun to look at. I want to encourage listeners to go check that out, and I'll link that in the description below. And then also, you have some research that you're doing for, I believe you said for another book where you wanted to gather some data.
Yeah, well, the first research that's most imminent right now for my moving forward is I had focused on doing essence statement creation for retirees, and I have been advised in the last month to offer that to a bigger audience, to maybe down as low as 35 year olds, and anybody in between, that people that feel like they're bouncing off the wall about fitting into their job, or all the, maybe you've got 12 things that you're really good at, and how do you make sense of all that? Well, your essence helps you narrow down what's in your heart, what's that original DNA inner spark that really causes you to be inspired and sparkle in front of people. And so the research I need to do is I need to understand the keywords that the younger people would use to be able to grab their attention and be effective in engaging, starting a conversation. So if you email me with a topic or subject of research, and then send it to Sharon at effortlessvitality.org, O-R-G, then I would love to get in contact with you and just gather some information. I need about 10 or 15 minutes. I've got 10 questions. But the next book I write, in fact, I want to help the kids of boomers. Oftentimes other people see us being stuck before we are aware of it. And you might see your mom and dad struggling in retirement. Maybe you see some signs of depression, or copping out on life. Oh, I don't want to go to that. And give them some questions or ideas, or engage them in a way that gets them mentally active again, because that purpose actually extends your life. And I'm headed towards 100, and I want lots of people there with me too.
Okay, so your age group that you're looking for is 30 to 35 and older. And you're looking for people to send you an email, subject research, and to schedule like a little phone call with you for about 10 to 15 minutes and kind of go over some of your questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just narrowing down. I want to make sure I use your words to in my marketing, and engage the right people that need my service, because I'm very much convinced it's priceless, and that I have a friend that's applied the essence process to as young as kindergarten, first grade kids that were acting out, settled right down when after they did the essence process. And we're all acting out sometimes, with not being understood. That's a hard place to live, and I want to help solve that for you, so you know who you are and can relate that to others. So should I tell them my essence statement?
Yes, for sure. Yes, please.
Okay. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. That's why I'm here today.
I like that. And I like that you used the word colorful because that was one of the words that I used to describe you yesterday to my husband. I felt like I was talking to somebody I'd known for a long time. I was like, she just feels so warm, and I don't feel like the least bit like intimidated or nervous to sit down with her. I'm really excited to get to talk to you. So I think that is a great word for you to use for yourself. Um, so what's some advice that you would give to younger generations to prepare for retirement down the road?
Well, there's younger generations are now doing jobs in like three or four different industries before they retire. Um, you know, my dad's day, I think he was a carpenter for 30, 35 years, and you just kind of stay at one job. Of course, a carpenter, you're going from building various things, but that's the only thing it wasn't changing industries. So the, um, well, one of my little art blocks that I like to use is let your feet follow your heart. That takes so much courage, and the the fact that if you're always following your heart, I think you're going to be rolling into retirement with your eyes wide open because you've lived from your heart. You know, when our the business when I was working, your heart was not invited to work. Your kids weren't invited to work. Your dogs weren't invited to work. It's a whole different acceptance. And the balance of life is very much more accepted, not entirely, because they still work us to the bone sometimes without vacation and lots of overtime or sleep, even. So, as long as you're honoring your heart, Savannah, I think that's the best uh, recommendation I can give people because that will set you apart. Okay, one of the um, I just read a couple weeks ago, five secrets you need to discover before you retire, before you die, and one of the in the end of the first chapter, he gives a story of one of the people he interviewed was I believe a college professor, and the professor said there was a chasm of difference between the people who were following their heart and those that didn't. And it reminded me of a time when I was going to pick up my grades or something, I guess, at this college campus, and my just recent professor was walking the opposite way from me, and I told him how much I loved his class, and he said to me, well, if you like that class, and you should check out this master's program. If I had not been there, he had not been there, I might never have become a behavioral scientist. But that's the beauty of being in the right place at the right time. And he saw the spark of my interest in his topic, and he encouraged it. And we can do the same for others. But yeah, living from your heart is a huge step.
So I just thought of something. The board that you showed me earlier had health, finances. What else was on there? Yes, family and purpose. How can we financially prepare for retirement now?
Well, the we have lost a lot of knowledge about why we need to save and how. The person that's making a big contribution in that arena is Sharon Lecter, Lecchter. She has a strong sense of our 5 and 6 year olds needing to know about how to handle money. Um, uh, our credit cards have so been turned around. Instead of, oh well, maybe once in a while we'll put like our dental bill on a credit card. Well, now you're put groceries and insurance and on all on credit card. And that has a way of binding us into a anything but freedom. And being the manager of your money and saving with purpose, Um, Sharon Lecter advised that I use the Mint, MINT. Um, I think it's from Intuit, to help balance the living expenses and travel and eating out and all that. And I put so much into my own education. It's hard to balance my my balance, but paying yourself first is a very profound principle to live by, and I've had that message many times over the years. Um, I paid attention to it some, but I could have done better. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm working in retirement, and I want to do some traveling. And I now I'm figuring out people might pay me to travel and speak. But travel has a rare, um, it just teaches you so much that you can't get out of books. So I want to travel some more.
Oh, I like that. Um, I think you've given us so much to think about and so much to kind of,
Ponder, ponder.
yeah, like you've given us a lot to think about as far as the future that we have envisioned and maybe where we stand right now and how to get to that place. And I think there's probably a lot more to learn in your book and on your podcast. You said you have about 57 episodes, which I think is so cool. That's kind of a goal for me, getting up into the 50s. So I want to share all of your links that you sent me over. I'll share your email. I'll share your Instagram handle. I'll share the link to your book, like you said, like all of the links to your info. I'll put it all in the description box so people can get to it.
I might not have given you my YouTube channel, but if you just search for Sharon Rolfe, that's a unique enough name that you'll find some of my podcasts out there. A lot of my Queen of Courage tidbits are out there. And I even hold up some of my blocks and talk about what the meaning of my, wisdom block is to me. And it's just, I'm not a preacher. I think what I need to say can be done in 2 minutes.
All right, Sharon, is there anything that I didn't go over that you wanted to maybe talk about or?
Well, I'd like to end with, let me say, one of the couple of the podcasts that I've had on my Facebook page, Effortless Vitality, is from feeling invisible to the Queen of Courage. Is a nice, see what that's about. But Thomas Wolfe has a saying that if one has a talent and fails to use the whole of it, one has failed. If one has a talent and finds a way to use part of it, you've partially failed. But if one has a talent and you somehow finds out how to use the whole of it, they have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction few people ever know. That's what I want for you.
Sharon has an Instagram and a website that I encourage you to take a look at if you're feeling stuck in life. She's also asking women 30 to 35 and older to help her in research for her new book. All you have to do is email her with the word research in the subject line and tell her you're available for a phone call. She said she just needs about 10 to 15 minutes of your time to ask some questions so she can gather data. You won't regret talking with Sharon. She is so warm and delightful to chat with. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram at Pink Plus Podcast. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Catch you next time.